We do have breaking news tonight on the legal fight over the documents retrieved from Mar-a-Lago. Two big developments, both going against the Justice Department. One involving its attempt to resume its investigation into the former president's handling of the classified records. The other, the appointment of a special master to review those documents. CNN's Sarah Murray joins us now with the latest there. Sarah, what can you tell us about this ruling from Judge Cannon?
Well, look, we finally heard tonight who the special master is going to be. It's going to be Judge Raymond Dearie. He's a senior judge out of the New York area. He's the only person that the Justice Department and the Trump team agreed upon. So in some ways, that is not surprising. Now, what the government wanted her to do, they wanted to be able to move forward with their criminal investigation. So they said, look, if you have put forward this special master, at least don't have this special master go over the 100 classified documents that we found at Mar-a-Lago after the August search. The judge is saying, no dice. The special master is going to review all of these documents. You are not allowed to continue reviewing these documents as part of your criminal probe. Now, she's saying, look, there's still other stuff that you can do without having access to these documents. There are still witnesses you can question. You can still brief Congress on these materials, but you cannot be sort of handling these documents, showing them to witnesses, presenting them before a grand jury, things that the Justice Department would like to do as part of their criminal investigation. And essentially, she says she really doesn't buy DOJ's argument that not being able to access these documents would impede the national security damage assessment.
All right, very good explanation there, Sarah. What happens next? How likely is it that the DOJ will appeal?
Well, DOJ basically told her, look, here is what we want. We want this carve out for our criminal investigation to go forward. We want to be able to look at these classified documents. Tell us by today what your decision is. And if you are not going to agree to this, if you're not going to agree to let our criminal investigation go forward, then we are going to appeal. So they sort of showed their cards in that sense. We have not actually seen the Justice Department's appeal, but they did give a pretty indication before we got this decision from the judge that that is what their path was going to be.
All right, Sarah Murray, thank you very much. And thank you during the entire break explaining to me the language in this ruling from the judge that I was confused by. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
All right, perspective now from conservative lawyer George Conway, a contributing columnist at the Washington Post, and John Yoo, former U.S. Deputy Assistant Attorney General during the George W. Bush administration, now a law school professor at the University of California at Berkeley. And George, I just want to start with you. How much of a setback is this for the Justice Department?
I don't know that it's going to be a huge setback in the long term, but it's going to delay them to some extent. I mean, this ruling is absolutely a disgrace, and I don't think it's going to take very much to overturn it. I mean, Bill Barr last week told the New York Times that the original motion by Donald Trump's lawyers was a crock of shit. A crock of shit. That's what he said to the New York Times. This opinion is worse than that, because this opinion focuses on a motion, decides a motion that is focused on just the documents that were marked classified. And the judge claims in this opinion, without any basis, that there are factual and legal disputes about those documents. Well, there are no factual disputes about whether a document bears classified markings. That's ridiculous. And there is no dispute that a document taken from the White House, stolen from the White House, that was prepared by government officials, national security officials, there's no dispute that those documents belong to the government of the United States. And there is even Trump's lawyers did not actually make the specific claim that these documents were somehow magically declassified by the brainwaves of Donald Trump. It just wasn't. And as your colleagues found, Jamie Gangel and others, 18 Trump administration officials laughed at the proposition that these documents were declassified. And it doesn't even matter whether these documents were declassified, because the charges at issue here don't deal with classification. They deal with national security interests. This opinion is absolutely atrocious. And I have to say, and I've never said this publicly about a federal judge in my life, you have to wonder whether this judge belongs on a federal bench.
So John, George has made his opinion quite clear here, and he quoted Bill Barr. Neither of them sit on the 11th Circuit. So the question to you, do you think that the Department of Justice will or should appeal, and do you think that they have a chance of getting a more favorable ruling from a higher court?
John, Justice Department already promised that it would appeal. And the judge, I'm not surprised that Judge Cannon did this, because the Justice Department was basically asking her to reverse much of her decision, the most important part related to classified information. So the interesting thing is, on appeal, the 11th Circuit will look at what power did Judge Cannon have to undertake this remarkable and extraordinary step, which is to introduce a third party, this special master, into a type of situation where we rarely ever see them. On the other hand, appellate courts don't really like to second-guess trial courts when they're managing things like search and seizures, when they're managing things like criminal trials. And the rule of procedure here gives trial judges the discretion in extraordinary circumstances, which the Judge Cannon here found, to appoint a special master. If you're the 11th Circuit, the way you might think of it is, are we going to prevent this trial judge from asking for the help of a special master, someone like Judge Dearie, who's familiar with classified information and has served on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court? Because if they say no, then Judge Cannon's just going to go ahead and decide these issues herself anyway. So I actually think the better thing for the Justice Department to do is just work with this special master, accelerate the review of the documents. I bet they could even get through all the classified documents in the time it would nevertheless take to appeal to the 11th Circuit and wait for a ruling anyway.
Well, what about that, John? Because the judge ordered the special master to prioritize the review of classified documents first. Could that speed things up?
Oh, yes, John, that's actually the little area of give that I saw in the opinion that showed some effort to compromise here by Judge Cannon. She didn't just flatly reject the Justice Department entirely. She did say, I'm going to tell the special master to look at those 100 classified documents first and try to prioritize them and speed through them. And part that's because the Justice Department already said we're content to not use the other thousands of pages that aren't classified, and we will agree to the district judge's order that we not use those at all in any criminal investigation.
So, George, on another note, the former president was on Hugh Hewitt's radio show today, and I want to play a portion of what he said when asked what would happen if he was indicted and if it would deter him from running for president again. So listen to this.
I think if it happened, I think you'd have problems in this country, the likes of which perhaps we've never seen before. I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it.
What kind of problems, Mr. President?
I think they'd have big problems. Big problems. I just don't think they'd stand for it.
What do you hear there, George? Do you hear that as a threat?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's basically saying, what a nice country you have here. Too bad if something would happen to it. And it's basically January 6th all over again. He's denying inciting violence, but the fact of the matter is he is inciting violence because he's basically saying he's convinced millions of people that he is being persecuted for no valid reason, when in fact he knows and he's terrified about the fact that he has been caught stealing, red-handed stealing government documents of the highest security nature. And it's just, by perpetrating that lie to the American people, he is absolutely encouraging people to engage in violence. There's just no question about it.
George Conway, John Yoo, thank you both